All lies will be exposed. That's all.
But yeah, I'm embarrassed. Someone that is extremely, extremely private, and to have one of your most intimate details, the audio heard for the entire world to hear.
Shannon Sharpe might still be carrying a grudge against Mo'Nique and Katt Williams, and honestly, who could blame him after the chaos that followed? Katt's interview didn't just make noise, it blew the roof off the internet. That one sit-down had clips running nonstop, taking over every feed like wildfire. Suddenly, Shannon's couch wasn't just another talk spot. It became the place for raw, uncut truth where no PR team could step in to clean things up. Then Mo'Nique walked in and shook the table even harder. She opened up about being blackballed and didn't just hint, she dropped some serious heavyweight names in the process. From that moment, it was like Shannon wasn't just the host anymore, he was the guy giving celebs a safe space to spill everything people usually whisper about behind closed doors. And that's exactly when things started spiraling into mess after mess. Next came that late night IG Live Shannon probably wishes never saw the light of day. Add to that a lawsuit floating around with audio receipts making the rounds, and suddenly his name was plastered across headlines people had already read twice just to make sure they were real. Now the big question is this: did those bombshell interviews paint a giant target on Shannon's back? Or did his own slip-ups crack the door wide open for trouble to storm in? And let's not forget, the Katt Williams sit-down didn't just trend, it became a cultural earthquake that's still echoing today. So buckle up, because this story is only getting started and we're about to dive even deeper into the drama. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment below, because trust me, you don't want to miss what's waiting for us in the next part of this story.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all.
That interview didn't just get attention, it swallowed the entire feed whole. Names were dropped left and right, wild stories came flying out, and the claims had people locked in heated comment wars for days. The full sit-down didn't just rack up views, it straight up owned the timeline like nothing else could. Overnight, Club Shay Shay wasn't just a casual podcast anymore. It transformed into the spot for raw, no filter, no holds barred talk that had everybody tuning in. Suddenly, Shannon wasn't just the retired sports legend anymore. He became the man everybody wanted to see play culture referee. That iconic couch basically turned into a public confession booth where celebs laid it all out and the world pulled up with popcorn to watch. But right here, this is where the ride took a sharp left turn. See, once your show blows up like that, the rules of the game flip completely. You're no longer just the interviewer, you become part of the story. People might cheer for you, but at the same time, they're lurking, waiting on the sidelines for you to slip just once. And the pressure, you could feel it heavy in the air. Shannon was hotter than ever, but the vibe around him grew colder and more dangerous. Those viral moments made him huge, no doubt, but they also painted a big red target on his back. That's exactly why when the IG live slip happened, when the lawsuit surfaced with receipts, and when the job drama started bubbling, people weren't shocked. They were whispering, maybe this wasn't just bad luck.
Only for Tyler Perry to admit he did start a rumor that I was difficult to work with. He lied. Only for Tyler Perry to admit I was wrong.
Maybe it was bound to happen. Maybe somebody really was setting the stage. After Katt's explosive interview shook the entire industry, Mo'Nique slid right in and kept the momentum rolling like a storm. Sitting in that same seat, she got brutally real about being blackballed, breaking down shady deals, exposing how the game was rigged against her, and boldly calling out the very people she claimed were behind it. In that moment, it was clear. Club Shay Shay wasn't just on a hot streak, it was officially turning into Hollywood's courtroom, where names got dropped and the truth got aired out for millions to witness. And the reaction? Instant chaos. Clips spread across social media like wildfire, trending back to back. Old controversies resurfaced, and suddenly people who had never watched Shannon for sports were glued to their screens for the culture talk. Each new clip raised the stakes higher and higher. This wasn't comedy anymore. This was about money, reputations, power, and deciding who still got a seat at Hollywood's table. That's when the shift began for Shannon. Two massive back-to-back interviews had the fans hyped, but behind the scenes, industry eyes were glued to him in silence. View counts shot up, bookings multiplied, and the couch became iconic, but the energy around him started changing in ways that weren't so friendly. Because here's the catch. Once you hand a platform to guests with nothing to lose and stories that can flip the industry upside down, you're not just gaining clout, you're gaining enemies.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so.
Suddenly, Shannon wasn't just praised, he was watched. Every move, every word, every slip was magnified, and that heavy pressure didn't just stay in the studio, it followed him everywhere he went, until finally it pushed him straight into his first major mistake, and then came the moment that flipped everything on its head. Nobody forgot about that late night IG live, the one that never should have seen daylight. Shannon didn't try to pull the "I got hacked" excuse either. He stood on it, admitted what happened, addressed it on his show, and tried to keep it moving. But the damage was already done, and the internet wasn't about to let it slide that easy. The takes were flying everywhere. Some were joking, calling it 50 Shades of Shay, while others were shaking their heads saying, "Life has a funny way of humbling you." People even pointed out the irony. Just days earlier, Shannon had been throwing shots at Ocho, calling him unprofessional. And now, boom, the spotlight flipped right back on Shannon, and not in a good way. Suddenly, the focus wasn't on his guests anymore. The couch wasn't the story, he was. And here's the thing, when the laughs started to die down, the mess didn't stop. It only got louder, because right on cue, the next headline came crashing in.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed. Someone that is extremely private, and to have one of your most intimate details, the audio heard for the entire world to hear. I'm embarrassed for a number of reasons. People count on Shannon, Shay Shay Media, Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, ESPN. There are a lot of people that count on Shannon to be professional at all times, and I always try to be professional at all times. Even when I'm behind closed doors, I still try to remain a level of professional, although I'm in the privacy.
This time it wasn't gossip, it wasn't rumors floating on blogs, this was official. A woman named Gabriela Zuniga filed a jaw-dropping $50 million lawsuit against Shannon. Real paperwork, real court filings, no speculation. And to make things worse, her side came armed with audio receipts. The second that audio hit the internet, it spread like wildfire. It wasn't just a trending moment, it became the kind of headline that had everybody from fans to critics to industry insiders tuned in and dissecting every word. At this point, Shannon wasn't just walking through drama, he was knee-deep in it, and the stakes had never been higher. By the time folks were still dissecting that $50 million lawsuit, Shannon's whole vibe had shifted. What once felt like a safe space for celebs to come spill their truth was now starting to feel like a courtroom with cameras rolling. The same couch that had made him a culture king was slowly turning into Exhibit A. And let's be real, the industry was paying attention. Behind closed doors, experts were whispering, "Is Shannon too hot to touch now?" Because nobody wants to tie their name to someone tangled in legal fire. At the same time, fans weren't turning away. They were locked in even tighter. Every episode felt like it could be the next viral storm, and every guest was walking in, knowing millions of eyes were ready to pick apart their words. Shannon tried to keep control, but once the lawsuit audio started making rounds, people weren't just watching his guests anymore, they were watching him. His reactions, his body language, even the way he asked questions got studied like he was the one on trial. That's the danger of blowing up overnight.
Obviously, I'm sure everybody's heard the news by now that I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week, and really the only thing that I really ask is like, guys, could we wait until Monday? My brother's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I really wanted to be about him, and I wanted to be about my family.
You don't just hold the spotlight, you get trapped under it. And here's where it gets wild, because the whispers about Shannon didn't stop at lawsuits and IG drama. Rumors started spreading that other big names were ready to come forward with receipts of their own. The couch that made his show untouchable was now the same couch dragging him deeper into Hollywood's messiest conversations. So now the question isn't just if Shannon can survive the storm, it's whether his couch is about to cost him everything he built. While Shannon was still battling the lawsuit heat, another storm was already forming. And this one didn't come from strangers, it came from inside the industry.
I'm embarrassed for a number of reasons. People count on Shannon. Shay Shay Media, Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, ESPN. There are a lot of people that count on Shannon to be professional at all times. And I always try to be professional at all times. Even when I'm behind closed doors, I still try to remain a level of professional, although I'm in the privacy.
Whispers started leaking that some of the very people who once praised his show were now quietly backing away. Bookings that were once automatic suddenly slowed down, and guests who were lined up to sit on that famous couch began rescheduling. In Hollywood talk, that usually means they're scared of catching strays. At the same time, rival platforms smelled blood in the water. Other hosts were low-key throwing shade, hinting that Shannon wasn't built for this level of heat. And every little misstep, whether it was something he said in passing or a clip taken out of context, got amplified into trending debates. Overnight, Shannon went from celebrated culture referee to the man everybody was dissecting like a case study in how fast the game can flip. But here's the twist. Fans weren't ready to let go. The same drama that had industry insiders running scared was exactly what kept regular people tuning in. They wanted to see if Shannon could handle the fire or if he would fold under the pressure. Every episode started to feel like a gamble. Was this the one that would break him or the one that would prove he was untouchable? And with all that energy building up, it was clear. The couch wasn't just a set piece anymore, it had become a battlefield. Shannon wasn't only hosting conversations, he was fighting for his credibility, his career, and maybe even his legacy in real time. And when Hollywood smells weakness, the vultures don't wait, they circle fast. Just when it seemed like Shannon had enough on his plate, another curveball came swinging. And this time, it wasn't lawsuits or IG drama. It was straight up betrayal talk. Word started spreading that somebody from inside his own circle might have been feeding stories to the blogs. The timing was too perfect. Private convos were popping up online, little details only people close to him could have known. Suddenly, the question wasn't just about Shannon's public mistakes, it was about who he could really trust behind the scenes. Fans were quick to run with theories. Some pointed fingers at past co-hosts, others whispered it could even be someone from the production team. And in Hollywood, that kind of speculation spreads faster than the truth. One minute Shannon was fighting off outside pressure. The next he was looking over his shoulder, wondering if the leak was coming from the people sitting right next to him. Meanwhile, the blogs ate it up. Headlines painted Shannon as a man surrounded by snakes, while the clips circulating online made him look isolated and cornered. The couch, once a symbol of power, was now being memed as a hot seat. That shift alone showed how quickly public perception can flip. From respect to ridicule, almost overnight. But here's the kicker. The mess didn't push viewers away. If anything, it pulled them in deeper. People tuned in not just for the interviews, but to read Shannon's body language, to see if he looked stressed, to guess if he knew who the mole was. It became reality TV without the script. And just when the smoke started to clear, another twist was already loading up, because Hollywood wasn't done testing Shannon, not by a long shot. The question now was, could he keep his empire standing when the biggest battles were being fought inside his own camp? Coming right off the whispers about snakes in his own circle, things only got worse when a certain clip exploded online. It got reposted everywhere. Blogs, timelines, even mainstream outlets couldn't resist grabbing it. People were debating nonstop, acting like a 30-second clip told the whole story. Shannon clapped back hard, saying it was twisted, missing major context, and nowhere near the way the internet was making it look. But here's the truth, once something like that leaks into the public, you can't stuff it back in the box. It takes on a life of its own. And just like before, fans were split down the middle. Some were saying, let the court handle it, while others treated that tiny clip like it was the final word. But behind the scenes, you could feel a bigger shift happening. Brands and business partners didn't rush to defend him. They didn't put out statements. They just went quiet. And in this industry, silence speaks louder than words. It means they're waiting to see if you sink or swim before they stand next to you again. Still, Shannon showed up, lights on, cameras rolling. Even with a lawsuit hanging heavy over his name, he didn't fold, at least not in public. But that's exactly when the whispers started getting louder. The setup talk. Too many hits, too close together, too many stories dropping like clockwork. People began asking, is this just bad luck? Or is someone trying to line Shannon up for a fall? And just as the whole thing stopped feeling like regular internet drama and started to feel real, that's when the bombshell landed. The job news dropped. After the courtroom headlines, the job news came crashing in, and it hit harder than anyone expected. 1 week, Shannon was still on TV acting like nothing had changed. keeping the same energy for the cameras. Then, almost overnight, he stepped back. No grand farewell, no emotional monologue, not even a slick highlight reel, just a quiet exit that left everyone stunned. The silence around it made the whole thing feel even heavier, like something was being kept under wraps. But the storm didn't stop there. Summer 2025 delivered yet another blow, this time from Gmita Tillman. She filed a $20 million defamation suit, not just against Shannon, but also against Ocho Cinco and Shay Media itself. According to her, they pushed a false story about her marriage after that viral Usher concert moment. And here's the kicker, this wasn't messy blog beef, this wasn't shady subtweets. This was an actual court filing, real paperwork, real lawyers, real consequences. The headlines flew in fast, clips were pulled and reposted everywhere, sparking wild debates about what was really said, what was hinted, and whether Shannon and his crew had crossed a dangerous line. Once again, Shannon wasn't riding the wave of guest controversy, he was the controversy. The man who built a platform off other people's confessions was now living through his own. And here's the part most people skip over. Yes, the case was filed, but the timing raised eyebrows. Another lawsuit right after the job exit? People couldn't help but connect the dots, whispering about whether this was coincidence or the continuation of a carefully stacked deck against him. Either way, Shannon's name was back in bold print, and the court battles were only getting started. Some outlets quietly reported the case got dismissed in federal court, but those updates weren't loud, and not every platform pushed the same info. Anyone who's ever dealt with real court filings knows timing and paperwork can blur the picture fast. What's clear is this: the lawsuit was filed. Dismissal whispers came later. But depending on where you look, the status reads differently, which only added to the confusion. Either way, the damage while it was active was already done. Cases like that slow down bookings, make brands hesitate, and keep your name chained to controversy instead of your actual work. Shannon's momentum stalled, not because people weren't watching, but because Hollywood started moving more carefully around his name. Then came the fan theories, some saying those back-to-back Katt and Mo'Nique interviews lit the first domino that set everything off. Others believe Hollywood itself made sure to strike back, reminding Shannon who really controls the game, and honestly, that's the cleaner story. Shannon gave his guests a live mic, they spoke the truth, and the machine decided to humble him. But maybe it wasn't a setup at all. Maybe once the spotlight got that big, the margin for error shrank to zero. One slip on IG, one leaked message, one viral on-air moment, and suddenly the walls closed in. What's not up for debate is how hot it got. After those interviews, the heat never cooled. Every week brought another clip, another headline, another reason for people to pick sides. And once the lawsuits landed, it stopped feeling like gossip. It was legal, public, and serious. And so here we are. The paper trail's finished, but the guessing isn't. Was Shannon taken out by the system, or did he hand them the ammo himself? With TV gone and legal trouble still in the air, his next move could flip the story or lock it in for good. If his name pops up in one more headline, we'll know this isn't just another chapter, it's the turning point. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. See you on the next one.